Om Apyayantu mamangani Vakpranaschakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Aham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani niyateya upanishatsu dharmaha te mayi santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Upanishatsu nirate, not niyate. Nirateya Upanishatsu dharma. We have completed 15 khandas of the 7th chapter of the Chāndogya Upanishad from Samvāda. At the end of these 15 sections, the factor called prana was heavily praised. Prana was described as the support, as the basis, as what makes possible everything else. Out of those 15 factors, starting with nama, going over to vak, prana, vak, manaha, sankalpa, etc., the last one, prana, was said to be the enlivening factor of all the 14 that came before. The factors that were prescribed or recommended for upasana end with the 15th factor, prana. Now, before Sanat-kumāra gives to us certain insights into the ultimate truth, knowing which we get liberated, Sanat-kumāra gives 7 more factors, not for upasana, but these 7 factors are such that a deep appreciation of them can help any seeker transcend prana also. If anybody thought prana was the ultimate, we would say no. Prana was praised quite heavily because of the 15 factors, it was way high. But prana also is anatma. Prana also is a vikara, a modification of what actually is. What actually is that does not get subjected to duality is going to be talked of as bhūma, the infinite. Therefore, while the 15th khanda said anyone who knows prana, the vital force, the life principle as expressed in the functioning of anybody's personality, body, mind, senses, and so on, while it was said anyone who knows prana would then speak in a surpassingly good manner or in an excellent manner. It's a compliment. Ativadi here is not a criticism of somebody who talks too much. The word ativada will come another place in that sense also. But here ativadi means one who speaks most excellently. Now, in the 16th section, the word ativadi was used. In the context of prana, it was said, Evam pashyan, evam manvanaha, evam vijanan, ativadi bhavati. Interestingly, After hearing this and after deeply appreciating prana also, Narada does not ask at all, is there something higher than prana? In all earlier paragraphs, Narada typically asked, is there something bhuyan or bhuyaha or bhuyasi? The three words meaning higher, superior, greater, of more value. And accordingly, Sanat-kumāra went on showing to Narada something of greater value. After the 15th khanda, or at the end of that 15th khanda, Narada doesn't say, is there something higher? Which means Narada mistook prana to be the ultimate reality. So we will take right away a couple of sentences from Adi Shankara's Bhashya, where he explains why this 16th khanda comes into the picture at all. We might go straight to Bhuma, but the sections 16 to 22, that means there are 7 sections in this 7th chapter, 7 khandas. The previous one we saw was Panchadasha khanda, and we are now picking up Shodasha khanda, 16th khanda. Why does it come at all? And Shankaracharya in his Prasanna Gambhira Bhashya says, Saesha Naradaha Sarvatishayam Pranam Swam Atmanam Sarvatmanam Shrutva Na Atah Paramasti Iti Upararama. Narada as though withdrew from any further possible discussion, thinking this prana is the ultimate. Na atah param asti. There perhaps is nothing greater than this. Shankaracharya makes it so easy for us in simple Sanskrit. He writes, Na purvavat kimasti bhagavaha pranad bhuyaha iti papracha. Unlike in earlier paragraphs, here we don't find Narada asking, Kimasti bhagavaha prana bhuyaha. Is there something superior to prana? Which means he sort of got extremely content with understanding prana. Acharya Shankara writes, Yataha tam evam vikara andrita brahma vijnanena paritushtam akritartham paramartha satya ativadinam atmanam manyamanam. Sanat-kumāra immediately understood that Narada, having understood prana, thinks that he has understood the supreme reality, while actually, with all due respect to prana, it is vikara andrita brahma. It is also a modification. Therefore, it is not true Brahma. And with that itself, Narada was paritushta, which is not desirable. And being happy with prana, Narada began to feel so great about himself. Given a chance, he would be ativadi, he would talk. But talking about highest reality, while actually one knows only up to prana, would be great injustice. At the same time, Sanat-kumāra knows that Narada is a yogya shishya. Yogyam shishyam mityagraha visheshat viprachavayan aha bhagavan Sanat-kumāraha. The revered Sanat-kumāra speaks wanting to shake Narada out of his mityagraha, false notion that energy, life force, the enlivening factor, the reflected consciousness, technically speaking, reflected consciousness is everything. Narada was thinking. From there, he had to be shaken and helped to go towards certain factors. When those factors are in us, we would not misunderstand prana to be the highest, and we would ask for something that is even higher. The highest is where duality collapses and non-duality takes over. That is bhūma. Therefore, Sanat-kumāra was very keen that Nārada not be stuck with duality. Nama onwards, all the way till prana are in the domain of duality. Bhūma alone is non-dual. And Nārada was stuck with those 15. Therefore, as Bhāshyakara, Shankaracharya says, this mantra 1 in the 16th section is about how all talk about prana is no justice to the supreme truth if one is not aware of the supreme truth. So we have 2 sections to cover in this class. One section is about Satya, another is about Vijnana. Right in advance, I may say that Satya here is not the value in speaking. I spoke truth and so on. Satyam vada dharmam chara. Not that truth. This Satya is the ultimate truth. Satya is that Bhuma itself. Satya is Brahma itself. So these sections are to caution Narada. Unless you know the supreme truth, unless you are anchored in the supreme truth, whatever you may talk about prana will fall flat. So we'll see the title slide now, in which on one hand Satyam and on the other right understanding of it, Vijnanam. These two are praised. So we take a look at a title slide where in English, if we may say it first, desire to know the truth. Without knowing the supreme truth, however much you may be an orator, however good you may be in communication, something is terribly missing in you. Desire to know truth. And in order to know truth through proper study, you must have understanding. Knowing truth doesn't happen by just deciding, okay, I'm going to know truth. Tomorrow morning, I will know truth. You can't do that. You have to have understanding born of the scriptures. That is called Vijnanam. So, Satyam Vijidnasitavyam, Vijnanam Vijidnasitavyam. Desire to know the truth, desire to have true understanding. That is how we now take a look at the mantra, the first mantra, and this mantra is the only mantra in the 16th khanda. Picking up from where he had left, Sanat-kumāra says, Yesha tu va ativadati. Va ativadati is after sandhi, otherwise, Yesha tu vai ativadati. He alone can speak excellently. Yaha satyena ativadati. Whoever starts doing so with knowledge of the Satya, if one knows the supreme truth, it makes a big difference. These are all very precious revelations, very precious mantras. For not only in those very ancient times, like Narada was trapped, even today, a whole lot of us may get trapped in something exciting in the so-called spirituality, and we may imagine that itself to be the highest. Therefore, are we anchored in the liberating truth, or are we basking in the reflected glory of one of these items, prana and so on, is the question. Therefore, the first mantra says, if someone is really standing in truth, then one may speak in the most excellent manner. Otherwise, common people may look at this person speaking as, wow, how an excellent speaker he or she is. But the truth is, though he or she may have impressed thousands of people, he or she is not actually speaking as excellently as would be possible. He has another long distance to go. Satyena yadi kopi api ativadati saha satyameva ativadati. Definitely he or she is a great speaker. Narada realizes his mistake. Oh, there is another leap. We may call it a quantum leap. All these are in the domain of duality. You switch over to non-duality. You come to a understanding where the object and you, the subject, become one. You see a chair, you know you are the chair is you. This is very difficult to describe or even comprehend. But for that leap to take place, one has to aspire for that liberating wisdom. One should not be content with prana. So the mantra says, Soham Bhagavaha Satyena Abhivada Ativadani. Narada immediately accepts his limitation. Right now, I can talk about prana, but I don't know the higher truth or the highest truth. Knowing the highest truth, through that Satyena Ativadani, I would then like to speak in an excellent manner. Satyam tveva vijidnasitavyamiti. And therefore, what needs to be known is Satyam. And Sanat-kumāra agrees that Narada may dwell into or delve into and dwell upon Satyam. As Swami Gambhirananda's translation goes, Narada says, O Venerable Sir, such as I am, I want to transcend in speech by virtue of realization of truth. Otherwise, I'm just stuck with very beautiful words. And then Sanat-kumāra says, yes, truth indeed has to be sought for realization. The mantra ends with Narada admitting, Venerable Sir, I seek for the realization of truth. So there is the emphasis on truth in this 16th section, and we have already clarified truth here is Paramartha Satya. How do we know? For these, really speaking, we need to go by Bhashyakaras like Shankaracharya. We'll see, take a look at Shankara's connecting or explaining. Shankaracharya here says, after first making a case for further discussion, and that case was no other than Narada being stuck with prana, Shankaracharya says in his attempt to explain what is Satya. Satya is, there is expression, first of all, Satyena is the word in the mantra. Acharya Shankara gives a synonym, Paramartha Satya Vijnana Vattaya. Paramartha Satya Vijnana Vatta. Somebody who has knowledge of Paramartha Satya is Paramartha Satya Vijnanavan. Being a Paramartha Satya Vijnanavan is Paramartha Satya Vijnanavatta. That is the abstract noun. So, when Narada says, I would like to speak excellently, Ativadani. It's not Ativadami, Ativadani. So that is what they call lot lakara, imperative mood. And here it is in the sense of aspiration. May I speak excellently while being anchored in the supreme truth. And that is where Shankara explains that aspiration indirectly implies the next Sanskrit sentence, Tatha mam niyunaktu. May you, O Sanat-kumāra, O revered sir, may you instruct me, may you set me on the path of discovering that truth. Because if I don't know that supreme truth, however articulate I might be, however bright and smart I might be compared with thousands of others, I really am not speaking so excellently as is required. Niyunattu, please engage me, please teach me, please instruct me, so that I get anchored in Satya, then I speak on prana or anything else in an excellent manner. So the word vijitnasitavyam is thus not upasitavyam. Please see the difference. In 15 khandas, it was all upasana. It was said nama upasva, vacham upasva, sankalpam upasva, manaha upasva, or towards the end, smaram upasva, asham upasva, pranam upasva. Though pranam upasva was not said, it was implied. All those 15 were for upasana. Here it is vijitnasitavyam. You don't have to do anything, but if you deeply understand the importance of knowing that highest truth, Brahma Tattva, then everything will fall into place. Otherwise, you would take what is not the ultimate truth to be the truth. Yadyevam satyena ativaditumicchasi satyameva tu tavad vijidnasitavyam ityuktaha aha naradaha tatastu tarhi satyam bhagavo vijidnase. I really want to know in all clarity that Paramartha Satya, Paramartha ultimate Satya. That's how the only mantra of 16 gets over. We now move to the 17th khanda, and that is the last slide as well as the last mantra for consideration in this session, and that takes us to what makes it possible for us to stand in truth. Standing in truth, as we use the expression anchored in truth, I want to speak about things, whatever it is. Really speaking, even speaking about mundane subjects while standing in truth can make a big difference. Therefore, masters like Sri Ramakrishna said, first know God, then do anything else. Ramakrishna's literature comes across very strongly over there. Why do you want to go talk about all kinds of spiritual topics? First know God, then talk about any spiritual topics, Sri Ramakrishna says. Though it seems to be a bit of a contradiction, it is not, but it may seem to be that he encouraged Vivekananda to go ahead and teach. And it is believed that Sri Ramakrishna held back the ultimate realization from Vivekananda. Otherwise, the younger Swami might not go out and teach people. So very interesting and amusing things they are. Anyway, what was Sri Ramakrishna's powerful statement? Know God first. If you know God, then even if you are teaching mathematics, it will have an extra power. Even if you are teaching economics, it will have an extra power. In other words, it's a very intriguing statement. Only those who know God deserve to really do anything in the world. Others are all an empty show. You may sometimes come across statement like that about not God, but love also. Unless you have love in your heart, you should not take up any work at all. Any profession, any job, any responsibility, anything in the world, for heaven's sake, don't take unless you have love in your heart. Without love in your heart, your life is such a waste. Such statements we come across. It's so true. Generally, we think we are doing a good job because we compare ourselves with somebody who is deeper into ignorance, who is in more trouble than we are. And therefore, if we are in less trouble, if we are in a manner of saying less ignorance, our ignorance is not so thick or gross as somebody else's, we feel very good. We feel we don't have to go progress, we don't have to go higher at all. But masters like Sri Ramakrishna don't see from those little comparisons. You know, there is that saying in the kingdom of the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed is the king. So the so-called great performers in various subjects, in various fields, are all like the one-eyed person. Somebody with one eye becomes the king if everybody else has both the eyes damaged. In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed is the king. Like that, to talk about prana, to talk about kundalini, to talk about swastika, to talk about bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, to talk about so many spiritual topics without knowing Brahma is mocked at in higher contexts. So what does this last mantra of the session say? In order that you can stand by truth, you must actually know truth. You can stand by truth only if you know truth. Therefore, Vijanati is further highlighted here. Earlier also we said, unless you know truth, how can you speak well? But to make a further distinction, you must be with truth. We must stand by truth, but you can stand by truth only if you know truth. Vijanati. Therefore, the mantra goes, Yada vai Vijanati, Ata Satyam Vadati. Na Avijanan. Someone were not to know what Brahma is, then how can one speak about Brahma? Na Avijanan Satyam Vadati. Double negative. Not knowing Brahma, one cannot speak on Brahma. So, if you remove both the negatives, one can speak about Brahma if one knows Brahma. And the word used is Vijanati. Therefore, promptly, Nārada says, Vijnanam Vijidnase. I would like to know. Jidnasa itself is desiderative. It's not about knowing, but it is about wanting to know. I want to know Vijnana. I want to know what is involved in knowing truth. If I know truth, then I stand in truth, then whatever I speak, whatever I do, everything will have power. In other words, somebody who is realized will have great power whether she speaks or is silent. An enlightened lady speaks, there will be great power. On another day, the enlightened lady is not speaking even one word. Her silence will have great power. Whereas when we are not enlightened, our speech also is a waste. Our silence also doesn't mean anything. Therefore, we must know truth. To read quickly the English translation, when indeed one understands, then one speaks the truth. Without understanding, one cannot speak the truth. It is only by understanding that one speaks truth. Understanding, however, has surely to be sought after. You must desire to know true understanding. And Nārada says, please instruct me how I may truly know the truth. No wonder the next one talks about mati. Mati is manana. You must listen to discourses, you must think about what is said. If you reflect on what is said, according to yukti, right logic, logic acceptable in the scriptures, then you will know. So, making possible standing by truth, there is knowing truth. Making possible knowing, there is thinking or contemplation on Vedanta statements. In order that you may, in a sustained manner, contemplate on Veda mantras, you must have Shraddha, that comes. In order that you may really awaken Shraddha in you, you must have Nishtha, certain commitment. In order that you may get Nishtha, you must, for a good period of time, do good things, Kriti. Thus, Satyam Vijnanam Matihi, Shraddha Nishtha Kritihi, and that Kriti again is made possible when one truly aspires for Sukha. One of our major problems is, it may surprise you to hear this, really we are not even interested in our own happiness. Some silly things attract us, and because of our false conditionings, we chase those silly things, and in our heart there may be a voice, there may be an inner voice which says, this won't give me true happiness. Why am I running after it? But when we are under the influence of vasanas, urges, etc., we say, I don't care now for the so-called true happiness. I want the happiness from this object. Somebody who wants to eat ice cream, somebody who wants to watch a movie, somebody who wants to, just to go on watching television. You think he or she is utterly ignorant? No. In a corner of her heart, there is a voice. You are wasting time. But then she says, shut up to that inner voice. Shut up, don't interfere. Let me enjoy this TV for some more time, and so on. So, Nishta, Kriti, Sukha, all of them, as Shankara himself says in his Bhashya, among the 7 factors that are now bunched here, whatever comes later is the cause of whatever has come before. We covered 2 in this session. They are Satya and Vijnanam. Vijnanam causes or makes possible abidance in truth. Unless you have right understanding, how can you abide at all by truth? But that right understanding comes from thinking, that comes from Shraddha, deep faith. Otherwise, you will think for 1 or 2 minutes and then get distracted. Those of us who have deep Shraddha, we can develop slowly over a length of time, we can increase and enhance our ability to contemplate. More we contemplate for a good length of time and with good depth, Vijnana takes place. When Vijnana takes place, we will be able to be anchored in truth. Otherwise, we are knee deep or neck deep, waist deep in falsehood. We may be talking about something high, but we are actually steeped in ignorance. Thus, let me summarize this way. The 7 factors, starting with Satya, ending with Sukha, are all, or sometimes it is said, Sukha is of course what everyone wants. Before that, Kriti, 6 factors you may say. In one place, Shankaracharya puts it that way. Satya Adi and Karoti Anta. Karoti is Kriti, the 6th factor. He singles out or separates the 7th one, which is Sukham. Because Sanat-kumāra raises the issue of Sukham and then says, true Sukham is only in Bhūma. So I put Bhūma as the 8th one, 7 factors, then Bhūma 8. So 15 factors for Upasana, 7 factors for deeply appreciating what they are, for knowing there's no Upasana involved. Then the 8th, 15 plus 7 plus 1, 8. That is Bhūma itself. In this way, the mantras take us for a better grip on things. I may say that. And yes. Yeah, there is nothing worth, especially something to be specially quoted from Shankara Bhashya. He has explained it as we have just now said. Therefore, we can realize in the light of this session how psychological domain is very deep, very complex. We need to go to more and more of our own depth. Then Vedanta will work for us. A superficial study will not take us far. Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyaha.